Chapter 1. The Silent Witness, Beneath the Atoll's Blue Water. There's a saying that water remembers everything. The blue water of the Hawaiian atoll in December 1941 not only remembered, but was a silent witness to an incredible nightmare. This is the story of the day the calm waters of Pearl Harbor ran red with blood. But this is not the story of a general or a commander. This is the story of an ordinary man like us who, little did he know, his life was about to change forever, and whose eyes caught one of the darkest chapters in American history. The Hook, the Forgotten Man. Deckhand Petty Officer Second Class Charlie Harrison had arrived in the Pacific Ocean from Virginia a year earlier. He was a regular crewman on the USS Arizona. That morning, Sunday, December 7th, 1941, Charlie had finished his duty and was trying to get some rest in his bunk below the ship. The sun was shining outside, and the atoll air was salty and sweet. Suddenly, a loud noise jolted Charlie from his sleep. The sound hit him square on the ribs. It felt like a huge iron hammer had hit the ship. This was not a drill. This was war. But Charlie Harrison's story begins not with the incredible fight for his life, but with the death celebration he witnessed, which took him to the center of a historic event where history forgot him. He watched as the pride of the American Navy, the USS Arizona, sank in just 9 minutes, taking more than 1,100 sailors with it, and he himself survived, remaining the guardian of a living grave. Pearl Harbor, the quiet morning's explosion. Historians say that the main purpose of the Pearl Harbor attack was to cripple the American Pacific Fleet, paving the way for Japan to invade Southeast Asia. But Charlie and his companions did not understand these strategies. They only knew that the Japanese had begun bombing from the air. When Charlie hurried out of his bunk, the upper deck of the ship was ablaze. The first bomb probably hit the aft deck of the ship, but the real blow that stopped everything came at 8:10 a.m. An 800-kilogram armor-piercing bomb dropped by a Japanese Type 99 aircraft pierced the forward magazine of the USS Arizona and hit the gunpowder pile. What happened next was not just an explosion, it was an earthquake. Charlie felt as if the ship had suddenly been hit in two with a giant hammer, a mixture of light, darkness, and intense heat. In a split second, the front of the ship was transformed into a huge coil of smoke and fire. The explosion of about 900,000 pounds, almost 400,000 kilograms of gunpowder lifted the ship about 25 feet into the air. The flames rose so quickly that they seemed to create a second sun in the sky. Charlie fell to the floor. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the walls around him had been distorted, and the air was filled with the acrid smell of burning flesh and gunpowder.
The astonishing survival. Charlie Harrison was in the very center of the ship. Fortunately, he was not in the center of the explosion. But his greatest surprise was that his two friends in front of him, Eddie and Sam, who had been laughing a second before, were gone. There was no sign of them. The explosion seemed to have erased their very existence. Charlie could tell that the ship was sinking. Charlie, who could not swim, had only one way out, his primal desire to survive. As Charlie crawled out of a broken part of the deck, he saw the last moments of Captain Franklin Van Falkenberg. The captain, still holding on to his post, was trying to organize his men. Charlie saw a Japanese Zero fighter suddenly descend and begin firing. In an instant, Charlie saw the captain fall, shot in the arm, but still trying to get up. The captain's unyielding demeanor, which was never recorded in history books, was etched in Charlie's mind. It was a moment when the courage of ordinary people surpassed even legends. Charlie somehow climbed over the broken railing and jumped into the sea. The water temperature was much warmer than normal because the surrounding area was filled with oil, fire, and water, oil, and burned history. As Charlie floated in the water, his eyes fell on the USS Oklahoma. The battleship was slowly capsizing. Its propeller was rising above the water as if some huge aquatic creature was giving its last cry for help. From below the ship, from the overturned part, came the cries for help from his comrades. Many people were still trapped inside, and there was no way out. Charlie saw that the layers of oil on many of the sailors who were floating in the water suddenly started to catch fire. The fire spread like a giant snake through the water. Charlie would never forget the greatest scene of his life when he saw a friend whose name he had forgotten gasping for breath in the oil soaked water and engulfed in flames. Charlie saw that it was all over before the small boats that helped him arrived. Charlie somehow managed to hold on to a floating piece of wood. He watched as his USS Arizona, creating a huge column of smoke, sank almost completely in just 9 minutes. Its mast only peeked out of the water like a tombstone. The mass grave of 1,177 fellow soldiers was formed before Charlie's eyes. At that moment, Charlie Harrison was not just a sailor, he had become a silent witness to World War II. To Charlie, the attack on Pearl Harbor was not just a military disaster, it was a terrible game of nature in which humans were the helpless victims. The next chapter: the silence and an impossible mission. What came next in Charlie Harrison's life was even more incredible. He survived, but a mission was launched to help those trapped under the water. It was a miraculous attempt to pull people out of that living grave, a forgotten chapter in American history. Charlie and the other surviving sailors were then tasked with doing something that no one had ever done before.